The Illuminati. Are they real? Who started them? Who's a member? What do they really want? Let's try to find out. Hit the intro.
I got flavor. Motherfucker, I'm ill.
Today, the word Illuminati is often said to describe an elite group of people occupying various positions of influence throughout society. The word almost has become a parody of itself and is often used to discredit any real discussion of what is going on behind the scenes. We can factually say the Illuminati were first publicly acknowledged on May 1st, 1776. However, the official name for this group or order was the Bavarian Illuminati. That's right, that's the full name, not just Illuminati. Other names suggested among members prior to launch were the Order of Perfectibilists and even Society of Bees.
Boring!
The creator was this guy, Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at Ingolstadt University of Bavaria, Germany. Before we get to the shady, perhaps evil and downright criminal aspect of this organization, let's try and draw a more vivid picture. In order to do that, we gotta deal with some less exciting information first.
Gay!
Weishaupt was born on February 6, 1748 in Ingolstadt, today part of Munich, then capital of German state Bavaria. Adam's father passed away when he was 5, which left Adam in the care of his godfather, Johann Adam Freier von Ickstadt. Ickstadt was a professor of law at the University of Ingolstadt. Ickstadt gave Adam access to his private library. It was here young Adam was introduced to the works of radical French writers such as Rousseau and Voltaire. At age 7, Adam was enrolled in a Jesuit school, where he often got in trouble with the teachers because of his youthful ideals and love of free expression. At this point, we need to add a layer to this timeline by mentioning something else that is happening in the world around this time. Jacob Frank, creator of Frankism, and later member of the cult of all cults, remember this name, we'll get back to him in another video, he's super important, was arrested in 1760 by the Catholic Inquisition and imprisoned for 13 years. Upon his release, in 1773, he headed for Frankfurt, Germany, where he made friends with the House of Rothschild, including Mayer Rothschild, and was given the title Baron. Okay, back to our main storyline. I promise we'll examine those people more thoroughly in the future. They are extremely important. In 1768, at the age of 20, Adam graduated from the University of Ingolstadt with a doctorate in law. Around this time, he converted to Protestantism despite his Catholic training. Thanks to his godfather again, Adam had access to books that were generally banned by the Jesuits, who tightly controlled Bavaria at the time. These forbidden books of ancient mysteries, cults, and paganism greatly influenced Adam to become a free thinker and seek out additional works by Age of Enlightenment thinkers. Age of Enlightenment was an era he was living in. If we go back to our side quest happening in our timeline right now, we find this going on. The year is 1773 and Jacob Frank, Satanist surprise, is forming alliances. First with Mayer Amschel Rothschild, banking dynasty starter of the Rothschild family. And some researchers say at this point he even made homies with Adam Weishaupt. However, some researchers say that happened a little after the start of the Bavarian Illuminati. The discrepancies above leave two schools of thought in this story. One, Mayer Rothschild influenced and financed the start of the Bavarian Illuminati and was kept out of the limelight for a while. Or two, Mayer Rothschild joins shortly after the creation of the Bavarian Illuminati and then has an influence on the order. A little background on this Mayer character. Mayer Rothschild was actually born Mayer Bauer, and he was the one that changed the last name from the Bauers to the Rothschilds. The Bauers were a notorious occult family of Middle Ages Germany. And Mayer Rothschild is famous for the following quote: "Give me control of a nation's currency, and I care not who makes the laws." Now back to our main quest. In 1775, Adam was named professor of law at Ingolstadt University, a position only held before by a member of the Jesuits. Adam, being Protestant, and his promotion further enraged authorities and pitted the young idealist against traditional faculty members, many of them Jesuits. Regardless, Adam's popularity grew with students and faculty. They respected Adam for his open-mindedness. They would hang out in his quarters periodically to discuss religion, philosophy, and the issues of the day. Topics included Greek and Roman cults. They also studied the works of Pythagoras. By some reports, these gatherings were similar to modern-day university student activities, as in there was drinking, music, and even the blazing of cannabis. Around this time, Adam was also initiated into Freemasonry, and as a student of ancient esoteric knowledge, he grew frustrated that no one in his lodge understood the occult significance of their own ceremonies. So now that Adam's grown up in our story, now would be a good time to update us on his influences at the time in his life. Who was he a fanboy of type of thing? Adam was greatly influenced by a merchant simply known as Colmer. One author termed Colmer as the most mysterious of the mysterious men. Colmer preached an ancient form of Gnosticism called Manichaeism. I definitely said that wrong. That had used the word illuminated prior to the 3rd century. Colmer had learned esoteric knowledge of Egypt and Persia. Colmer himself was admired by Cagliostro, a French court magician and revolutionary. Cagliostro was involved in Masonic activities with the mysterious Count of Saint Germain and Venetian lover Giovanni Giacomo Casanova. Mesopotamian influence on Adam can be seen by the adaptation of the Persian calendar for the Illuminati. Adam spent several years consolidating information and knowledge from the various influences mentioned, plus the Knights Templar and Assassins. And quite possibly by now, he's also having chats with the previously mentioned Mayer Rothschild, that's friends with Jacob Frank, member of the Cult of All Cults, so it's getting shady. On May 1st, 1776, the Bavarian Illuminati is officially declared an order, an organization. I don't know, but without a doubt, 100% this is the year and date it was publicly formed. Given everything that's going on, one believable theory on where the Illuminati name came from goes like this. The name Illuminati came from the Zohar, which is a body of works in the Jewish equivalent of the Bible called the Kabbalah. Zohar is the foundation of Sabbatean-Frankist belief. In Hebrew, Zohar means splendor, radiance, illuminated, and so we have Illuminati. Others believe the name came from a small splinter group of Gnostics in Spain called the Alumbrados. It was founded by a Spanish Jesuit, Ignatius of Loyola. The Alumbrados taught a form of Gnosticism believing that the human spirit could attain direct knowledge of God and that the dogma of former religions was unnecessary to those who found the light.
Excuse me, everyone. Sex! Now that I have your attention.
What else happened in 1776? American Declaration of Independence. Adam Smith published The Wealth of a Nation. House of Rothschild was formally founded. Adam created 13 degrees of initiation in his Illuminati, the same amount of steps on pyramid money. Adam's Illuminati began with 5 members: Adam and his law students Franz Anton, Maz Elder, Andreas Suto, and a man named Bauhoff. However, the order grew quickly. A less talked about person that joined the order slightly after launch was William of Hesse, the employer of Mayer Bauer, aka Rothschild. So there you go, another connection of how they can be homies and friends and stuff. Rothschilds and German royalty have been connected by biographers through Freemasonry. Mayer's son Salomon was part of the same lodge as Mayer's bookkeeper Seligman Geisenheimer. Originally, the stated goals of the Illuminati appeared benevolent. They were to oppose and try to stop superstition, prejudice, religious influence over the masses, abuses of government power, and gender inequality. Others saw the order and its members as anarchists or descendants of the Knights Templar and the Assassins, and some as nothing less than worshippers of Satan intent on dominating the world. The order recruited swiftly, including from the various Masonic lodges Weishaupt belonged to. In an intercepted letter, Weishaupt is quoted as saying that certain secret traditions were above the comprehension of common minds.
Shut up, bitch!
Adam showed his desire to mold Illuminati members to his will by writing, "We cannot use people as they are, but begin by making them over." Alright, let's take a break here. We got the ball rolling, and in the next video we will switch focus to understanding the methods of operations for the Bavarian Illuminati, along with their goals straight from the mouth of Adam Weishaupt. We will also include quotes from the numerous historical figures acknowledging the existence of the order. It was not my intention to doubt the doctrines of the Illuminati, and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more fully satisfied of this fact than I am. George Washington, 1782. In this video, we will learn about how the Illuminati was structured, the methods utilized to complete their goals and control its members, while sprinkling acknowledgments of their existence from previous world leaders. Hit the intro.
I got flavor. Motherfucker, I'm ill.
Weishaupt wrote this in a letter to a former student of his and fellow Illuminati member. Immediately under me, I have 2 into whom I infuse my whole spirit. These 2 in turn correspond with 2 others, and so on. In this manner and with the simplest means possible, I will inflame 1,000 men into action. Similarly, this is the same method by which secret societies necessarily operate within the political sphere. Secrecy was the key to Illuminati control. A man by the name of John Robson, I don't know, look how it's spelt right here. I want to pronounce it Robinson, but it's not, it's Robson. He was an Edinburgh University professor, a Freemason, was invited to join the Illuminati in the late 18th century. After investigating the order, he published his findings in a book titled Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, carried on in the secret meetings of the Freemasons, Illuminati, and reading societies. Robinson quoted from Weishaupt's letters to fellow Illuminati. Here's one from a work called Die Neuesten Arbeiten des Spartacus und Philo in dem Illuminatum-Ordern, written in 1794. Definitely butchered that.
And I gotta admit, I don't think I give a fuck.
The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation.
Today, Junior?
None is fitter than the 3 lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expect little from it, and therefore takes little notice of it. Next to this, the form of a learned or literary society is best suited to our purpose. By establishing reading societies and subscription libraries, we may turn the public mind which way we will. In like manner, we must try to obtain influence in all offices which have any effect either in forming, or in managing, or in even direction the mind of man. Illuminati cells were kept separate, with leaders knowing only the names of their immediate superior or subordinates. This tactic has been used in modern times with the structure of the communist cells operating outside the old Soviet Union and today's terrorists. To add to the secrecy, codenames were used in correspondence. Weishaupt was known as Spartacus to his fellow Illuminati brethren. Other codenames which were mainly taken from classical literature or mythology included Alexander, Cato, Pythagoras, Socrates, Hercules,
Huh? What, you want some dick?
Odin, Confucius, and Osiris. Even cities and locations had codenames. Vienna's code was Rome. Austria's was Egypt. France was Illyria. Despite Weishaupt's animosity towards the Jesuits, he did end up borrowing their pyramidal structure to use for the Illuminati. Along with that, he incorporated structures of Freemasonry by using a similar system of degrees, esoteric instruction, and secret methods of recognition. Okay, so anyways, the Illuminati was organized into 3 primary classes: Nursery, the Masonry, and the Mysteries. Then these classes, again, were divided into parts with various degrees. So I'm going to provide a brief run through of this structure right now, but if you're interested in a deeper dive, may I suggest this book. In fact, I've read 3, 4, or 5 books by this author, and I'm yet to be disappointed, so go check that shit out. The Nursery class was subdivided into 4 degrees: Preparation, Novice, Minerval, and Illuminatus Minor.
You fucking nerd.
The preparation degree was just the starting phase of recruitment. The focus was figuring out the initiate's views on the church and the state. The candidate only knew the name of his recruiter, called an insuator, and was unaware that the Illuminati had spies called scrutators, whose job was to constantly surveil new members. Upon entering the novice degree, shit started to get a little more real, as the kids say. The aspiring member was forced to sign an NDA called Silentio, along with being given a notebook. I know, a notebook, watch out. During the 1 to 3 year probation period, the novice was asked to keep a log of the following things inside the notebook he was given: the weaknesses, prejudices, actions, financial status, and interests of everyone he met, including his own family, friends, and even strangers. He was told to write down his thoughts about any local or national news event, activity, or story. He was also asked to record his thoughts about his recruiter, aka Brother Insinuator. The Brother Insinuator was a huge factor in the initiate moving up throughout the ranks or not. Novices were also conditioned to be obedient. They had to take orders from their superiors without question. They also had to keep their mouths shut about the order's activities. The Masonry class was divided into 2 parts, containing a total of 5 degrees. Symbolic, which is part 1, consisted of the Apprentice, Fellowcraft, Master Mason, and Illuminatus major degrees. Part 2 was something called Scottish Knights, which contained Illuminatus Dirgens / Scottish Knights. In the symbolic degrees, the candidate was told the Illuminati secretly controlled all Masonic lodges. The candidate was also asked to play a game called Know Others.
I want to play a game.
This required the member to describe in detail other Illuminati members right down to their physical appearance, facial features, tendencies, education, emotions, and even sleeping habits. Creepy. In the Illuminatus major degree, the member was required to write a complete biography on themselves called a pensum. This was then compared to the views his brother insinuator and fellow initiates had on him. If the notes and information matched, well then the initiate was allowed to move to a higher degree and learn deeper hidden secrets of the order. If they didn't, well,
you're shit out of luck.
By the time you were a Scottish Knight degree, you were a well-vetted individual and could be made an administrator for the order, which in some instances involved being put in charge of an Illuminized Masonic lodge. The final grade, called Mysteries, was also divided into 2 parts with 2 degrees in each part. Part 1, Lesser Mysteries, had the following degrees: Prince and Priest. Part 2, Greater Mysteries, had the following degrees: Magus and King. The degree of Prince usually consisted of top administrators in the order. During induction for this degree, the candidate's hands were tied to symbolize the bondage of state and church tyranny. The password for Prince was Redemptio. That's it just means redemption, that's all I got. The degree of Priest meets once a year to perform a ritual called a synod, in which they arrived to blindfolded via a horse and carriage. Illuminati priests were given the choice of directing one of the following sciences: physics, medicine, mathematics, natural history, politics, the arts, or occult sciences. Priests were taught that great wealth could only come at the expense of others. Candidates for priesthood were presented with a choice of treasure, including gold, jewelry, a sword, a crown, or a coarse woolen robe. If you chose the robe, you would advance. Who would have thunk it? A candidate with his utter dedication proven to the order was permitted to enter the top-level circle of initiates as a magus. The rank of magus sat directly below the position or degree of king. The position of king was strictly occupied by Weishaupt himself. Next up, methodology. "18 to 30-year-old young men from wealthy and well-connected families were especially sought out for membership. Convincing academics and clergy to join the order was large in thanks to the charitable and philanthropic public image that was created for the order by the order. Many believe the Illuminati was a Christian effort to unify society into one big happy society." Weishaupt explained, "These powers are despots when they do not conduct themselves by principles, and it is therefore our duty to surround them with its members so that the profane, non-illuminated persons may have no access to them. Thus we are able most powerfully to promote interests. If any person is more disposed to listen to princes other than the order, he is not fit for it and must rise no higher. We must do our utmost to procure the advancement of Illuminati into all important civil offices." So, buddy's pretty much telling you right there to listen to people from the order itself above any people of authority in society. Weishaupt also said, "Behold our secret. Remember that the end justifies the means, and that the wise ought to take all the means to do which good, the wicked take to do evil." So basically, if lies, theft, murder, wars, and deceit result in a mission accomplished for the illuminated ones, then that's okay. Illuminati were indoctrinated with the Weishaupt blend of esoteric knowledge. Weishaupt also took on a philosophy that has always ended with horrible results, a philosophy shared by numerous tyrants, including Hitler. "Man is not bad," Weishaupt wrote, "except he is made so by arbitrary morality. He is bad because religion, the state, and bad examples pervert him. When at last reason becomes the religion of men, then will the problem be solved." The few members who proved especially dedicated to the order were awarded all the benefits available to them. For Weishaupt once wrote, "The power of the order must be turned to the advantage of its members. All must be assisted. They must be preferred to all persons otherwise of equal merits. Money, services, honor, goods, and blood must be expended for the fully proven brethren." At this point, the breadcrumb trail of information from numerous sources ties in the Illuminati with communism with what many may call the most dangerous book in history, and then that book back into the Illuminati. That coming full circle, I'm not going to try to touch this topic about this book until I'm more educated on what's going on there. Alright, let's call it a day here. Thank you for joining us for hopefully episodes 1 and 2 now on the Illuminati. We're going to throw a little curveball into our story timeline. Instead of continuing on with the Illuminati, the next video, which will be the third in this series, he's going to go and finally do an introduction to the cult of all cults, because they are rather important as to what's going on here and future on in the history of the world. So hopefully you'll join us for that, and until then, hit the outro.
Motherfucker, I'm ill.
Satanists, genuine ones, are peculiar people. They aren't ignorant peasants or semi-literate natives. Rather, their ranks are filled with doctors, lawyers, businessmen, and basically high responsible citizens. They are not a careless group who are apt to make mistakes. But they are secretive and bonded together by a common head and desire to mete out havoc on society. It was Aleister Crowley who said, "I want blasphemy, murder, rape, revolution, anything bad." The above quote is from serial killer David Berkowitz, who said he was part of a satanic group that orchestrated his murders. The quote is taken from letters he wrote to a church minister. So is it really the cult of all cults? I think so. Other authors and researchers have convinced me so. How do you even measure such stats to award such a title? Anyways, you decide on your own. The story of this cult spans a few centuries and has two vital leaders part of their history. So let's get started. Meet this guy, Sabbatai-Zevi. See, I just called him Sabbatai-Zevi, but like through my research, there's a whole bunch of different pronunciations for his name. There's Shabbatai, and then Zevi's pronounced a different way, and different spellings and stuff. So my apologies if I'm getting it wrong, but I'm gonna stick with Sabbatai-Zevi, no offense. Zevi was born in 1626 to wealthy parents living in Anatolia, which surrounded most of Asia Minor and Turkey. Fast forward to 1666. Yeah, that's right. Zevi is currently a Kabbalist rabbi. At this point, he decides to declare himself the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. I can only imagine how that went down, quitting his day job, but like getting up and being like, "Listen up, I quit, everyone, I quit, I'm the fucking Messiah now, fuck this job."
Hey, everybody, got an announcement to make. Ding, 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 ding. I quit. Oh, kiss my ass, everybody.
Regardless, he was reportedly a charismatic leader, and in a rapid pace he obtained half of the Earth's Jewish population as his followers. Members were forbidden to marry outside of their cult. There was even a system put in place to keep children unaware of what the cult was really about until they reached a certain age that deemed them trustworthy. Zevi and his followers came to be called Sabbateans. Then, yet again, I found a million different pronunciations. Well, not a million, 3, 4, 5. Sabbateans, Sabbatians. I'm gonna stick with Sabbateans, or whatever comes out of my mouth, no offense. A contributing factor to his popularity also came from Zevi's use of the Lurianic Kabbalah, named after Rabbi Isaac Luria, a 16th century mystic who proclaimed a new version of the Kabbalah which used numerology and codes to predict the coming of a Messiah. Zevi and his followers practice an inverted form of religious practice.
But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We're talking about practice, man.
They believed that by breaking old Jewish laws and traditions, the new Messiah could more easily lift them up to redemption. They feasted during fast days, ate food forbidden by Jewish dietary law, and believed in reincarnation. Another aspect of Sabbatean theology involved secrecy. Robert Seffer, anthropologist and author, wrote in his 2015 book, 1666, Redemption Through Sin, explained the Sabbatean view of secrecy. The theme of a secret, hidden, or occult identity became a part of this evolving religious philosophy. In essence, a true act cannot be committed publicly before the eyes of the world. Like the true faith, the true act was concealed, for only through concealment could it negate the falsehood of what is explicit. Through a revolution of values, what was formerly sacred became profane, and what was formerly profane became sacred. So yet again, let's remember this premise. Sabbateanism was not a form of Judaism, but an inversion of everything that common Judaism stood for. No joke, no over-exaggeration. Whatever was forbidden by Judaism was encouraged and sometimes even commanded of Sabbateans to do. This included incest and what would today be called Satanism.
Hail Satan.
Zevi even encouraged and told his followers to celebrate acts of evil and argued for feelings of guilt to be ignored. Zevi also foretold about a return to the promised land for Jewish people. An authority on the Kabbalah, Israeli historian Gershom Sholem, sorry if I butchered that name, described the Sabbatean movement as the largest and most messianic movement in Jewish history. Zevi was expelled from Jerusalem by rabbinical leaders due to his unorthodox views. Zevi ended up finding support from the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. However, the rate at which Zevi's faction grew quickly made the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire uneasy. At this point, the Sultan presented Zevi with an ultimatum: your head or the turban. Some other researchers and authors say the Sultan threatened Zevi with torture. Regardless, the test was, if Zevi truly was the Messiah, he can just resurrect himself and shouldn't be scared of being beheaded, tortured, or killed. The turban option meant he had to convert to Islam if he was passing on the beheading or torture offer. To the dismay of his followers, Zevi became a Muslim and took the name of Aziz Mehmed Effendi. Some supporters still managed to turn this negative into a positive, and since they believed Zevi was the new Messiah, they foresaw this news as an opportunity to merge the two religions. When Zevi chose to convert to Islam, around 300 families part of the Sabbatean cult decided to do so as well. Well, just in theory, they secretly were still going to be Sabbatean. These people notably became powerful in the politics and business of Salonika, today called Thessalonica or Thessaloniki in Greek Macedonia in the southern Balkans. Salonika was a major center for Freemasonry and the birthplace of the Young Turk movement, which overthrew the Ottoman Islamic rule in Turkey. But that's me getting ahead of myself, let's stay focused. They continued to practice the goals and rituals of Sabbateanism behind an Islamic disguise and became known as the Donmech, which means to turn, which is ironic because their turn to Islam was a fake one. Many research and authors have concluded that Sabbateanism was a modern version of the religion of Sumer and Babylon, and can be likened in its beliefs and sacrificial practices to today's Satanism, because in many ways, it is today's Satanism. Zevi passed away in 1676. The movement's leadership was taken over by this guy, Polish-born Jacob Frank, who claimed to be the reincarnation of Zevi, as well as the biblical patriarch Jacob, to the Donmech people as he encountered them traveling through Turkey as a salesman. Adopting the practice of posing as something one is not, Frank persuaded his followers that they needed to pose as Christians in order to preserve themselves. Frank taught that the overthrow and destruction of society was the only way to save mankind. Sabbateans under Frank's leadership became known as Sabbatean-Frankists. Sabbatean-Frankists ended up using a belief system that was more fucked up back when they were just Sabbateans, that neglected the strict Judaic rules, including those on decency, and even wife swapping, incest, and sex orgies were permitted. Do what thou wilt was preached by Frank, along with the Gnostic view that the Old Testament God was evil and that the best way to imitate the true God was to breach every old moral code.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Do as thy wilt? That sure does sound familiar. Weishaupt also said, "Behold our secret. Remember that the end justifies the means, and that the wise ought to take all the means to do which good, the wicked take to do evil." I mean, it's not the same thing, but they essentially mean the same thing, then just in different words. Frank explained that in order to become free, one must throw off all conventions. He also practiced this philosophy by converting to both Islam and Catholicism. He slept with certain members of his cult, including his daughter Eva Frank.
That's not funny, you sick fuck.
Some have gone as far to call Jacob Frank an occultist and black magician. Frankism involved animal and human sacrifices and declares that Lucifer is the true god. Pedophilia, Satanism, human sacrifice went wherever Sabbatean-Frankists went. Frank believed that if salvation can be brought upon by purity, it could also be achieved through sin. Rabbi Marvin Antelman describes Frankism in his book To Eliminate the Opiate Volume 1 as a movement of complete evil. Gershom Scholem, a Jewish professor that I mentioned before, said of Frank in his book The Messianic Idea in Judaism, "In all his actions, a truly corrupt and degenerate individual, one of the most frightening phenomena in the whole of Jewish history. Infiltration has been the foundation technique of Sabbatean-Frankists since their inception. The process of being one thing while in fact being something else became the calling card of the Sabbatean-Frankists." Frank was also responsible for the infiltration of the Vatican and Roman Church. Many Donmech turned again, this time to Roman Catholicism, with the intentions of taking over the power structure. So to recap, the Donmech in Turkey officially converted to Islam in 1683, and the Frankists in Europe to Catholicism in 1759. The purpose of these conversions was to take over and destroy these faiths. This modus operandi continues to this day, many researchers believe. Pose as a supporter of whatever religion, culture, movement, or political party you want to control. Then maneuver your people into positions of power and influence in the form of ministers, advisors, politicians, executives, etc. Frank, like Zevi, was excommunicated by traditional rabbis. Frank wasn't bothered by this though, as he still had the backing of the House of Rothschild, whose inner core are Sabbatean-Frankists and not Jews. As we learned from previous videos that I made, Frank spent time in jail, and after he got out, he made his way for Germany. So as we remember, Frank made his way to Germany, and according to Marvin S. Antelman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Rabbinic Court of America / biochemist, Frank also during this time became suddenly wealthy, because he was supported by who? Mayor Amschur Rothschild, who had established a banking house in Frankfurt around 1764. Remember the previous Illuminati videos? Well, go check those out if you haven't, because after making those videos while researching this video, I ran into some additional information that kind of gives like a notice that we're on the right track as far as information goes. Ready? Here we go. In 1773, Jacob Frank formed an alliance with two other Sabbateans named Mayer Rothschild and Adam Weishaupt. These three would go on to create the Bavarian Illuminati in 1776. The Illuminati would be a manipulating force behind the French Revolution and the American Revolution. Weishaupt would later become a Protestant Christian but Sabbatean style, which as we've learned means in the public eye only, while still secretly behind the scenes being a Sabbatean or Sabbatean-Frankist, whatever. In 1785, a horse courier suffered an accident, a courier that was carrying correspondence between Weishaupt and fellow Illuminati members. This is how the public Illuminati bubble was burst. The documents fingered Weishaupt and his plan for world domination. Since a lot of books on the matter seem to reference this one book to eliminate the opiate volume 1, I had to go buy the book and read it for myself. Lo and behold, 47 pages into the book, and I read the following sentences from the author. If you've watched previous videos on this channel, you'll know why I'm mentioning this. The author, Marvin S. Antelman, said the following thing on page 47. There is no argument about the relationship between the Illuminati and the Jacobins, who executed the terror during the French Revolution. There is no argument among prominent Judaic scholars as to the Frankist influence on the Jacobins and the Reform movement. The Illuminati, formed in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, paralleled the Frankists, which were formed in Offenbach in both geography and time, both in Germany. We shall demonstrate there is a relationship between the Illuminati and communists. The author continues to speak about people like we did, such as John Robison and Professor Gershom G. Solom. Let's see what some other authorities on the subject matter have to say about the information in this video and previous videos. Henry Makow wrote the following in his 2015 book, The Half-Jewish Conspiracy. The satanic plague devouring humanity originated with the Sabbatean-Frankist cult, a satanic Jewish movement based on the Kabbalah that absorbed half the Jews of Europe in the 17th/18th century. They were chameleons. Pretending to convert, the Satanist Jews infiltrated and subverted all important religions, organizations, and governments. They are the progenitors of the Illuminati, Zionism, Communism, Fascism, and they control Freemasonry. The NWO, brackets New World Order, is their goal. In 1988, Rabbi Gunter Plaut described Illuminati founder Jacob Frank in these terms and implied that the Nazis were a Sabbatean-Frankist creation. Author Livingston also saw the Sabbatean-Frankists as the force behind the Illuminati, the Nazis, and more modern events. He wrote, "It is easy to recognize the origin of communism and anarchism in this demented philosophy. It is easy to recognize the terror of the French and Bolshevik revolutions, the Soviet gulags, and Nazis' concentration camps.
Today, Junior?
The killing fields of Cambodia and China, the shock and awe of Iraq, and the dust of the World Trade Center. Many Jews were tricked by the Frankish communist promise of economic justice and public ownership."
Gotcha, bitch.
Aight. Let's call it a day here. Intro videos to the Bavarian Illuminati and the cult of all cults are in the bag. Next up, we're going to examine how the Illuminati officially came to an end and whether or not they could have secretly carried on their ways. Spoiler alert, the trail leads to yet another secret society. You know the deal. Subscribe, like, follow, share, comment, and all that stuff. In 1794, Duke Ferdinand of Brunswick, who was a Grand Master of Freemasonry and an Illuminati initiate since 1783, wrote the following to fellow Masons. "I have been convinced that we, as an order, have come under the power of some very evil occult order, profoundly versed in science, both occult and otherwise, though not infallible, their methods being black magic, that is to say, electromagnetic power, hypnotism, and powerful suggestion. We are convinced that the order is being controlled by some sun order, after the nature of the Illuminati if not by that order itself. In this video, we will examine the demise of the Bavarian Illuminati and the possibility that their mission was handed down to others that continued their work. Go watch the videos before this if you want a better understanding of what is going on. Subscribe, like, share, follow, all that stuff. That's enough time wasting. Let's get this party started. Hit the intro.
I got flavor.
By the spring of 1784, Illuminati membership had grown to just under 3,000 thanks to Adolf Friar Nisch and Company, along with two other influential free agent signings by the Illuminati. Duke Ferdinand of Brunswick-Luneburg and Prince Karl of Hesse, both of which were considered important figures in Freemasonry. Nisch did not get along with Weishaupt, and in April 1784 he resigned from the Illuminati, promising to give back secret and sacred property of the order and to never divulge information that he swore to keep secret. Nisch was quoted as saying, "Where does his unrestrained passion lead? Had I ever believed this man capable of such low and ungrateful behavior? And it was under his band that I was to work for mankind? That is to say, under the yoke of such a pig-headed man? Never again." So anyways, this Nisch character obviously thought Weishaupt was too fucked up to be involved with. That's what that quote says to me. Moving along. On June 22nd, 1784, Karl Theodor, the Duke of Bavaria at the time, issued the first of several rulings banning all secret societies, including Masons. Adam Weishaupt, the creator of the Illuminati, not only set out to deceive the public, but also reminded his top followers that they should hide their true intentions. Weishaupt wrote that members must, speaking sometimes in one way, sometimes in another, so that one's real purpose should remain impenetrable to one's inferior. How do we know Weishaupt said this? Let me tell you. In 1785, a horse courier, some sources say this person was not merely a horse courier but also a friend of Weishaupt's and an Illuminati member, was traveling from Frankfurt to Paris when he was reportedly struck by lightning. And then again, some sources say he just suffered an accident. Regardless, as a result, a considerable amount of correspondence was retrieved by authorities. Documents linking Weishaupt to the Illuminati and their plan for world dominance, along with a membership list of names, were part of the bounty. And now, a word from the best sponsor one can ever have.
Hi, I'm Suze.
I'm Ash.
And I'm Tammy. And together, we're The Broadcast.
If you like podcasts and chicks without dicks that chat about government corruption,
the dark sides of Hollywood,
fighting against the woke mob and commies,
and every conspiracy theory we can cook up, you won't be disappointed.
New episodes drop every Sunday night at 7 p.m.
Available on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, back to the video.
Still in 1785, Karl Theodor issues out another edict, this time outlawing the Illuminati and requiring active members to repent and register with the government or face more severe consequences. Back in Ingolstadt, administrative authorities of a special commission to investigate the Illuminati were stepping up the pressure on the order. A lot of Illuminati members that were questioned by this Inquisition ended up making formal confessions. The investigation revealed that many members of the Illuminati were part of the military, state officials, professors, and teachers. This should come as no surprise to viewers of this channel, seeing as we've already mentioned this. Illuminati priests were given the choice of directing one of the following sciences: physics, medicine, mathematics, natural history, politics, the arts, or occult sciences. During this time, Weishaupt fled and sought protection by the Duke of Ernest in Regensburg. The Duke even sent letters to Karl Theodor asking him to back off Weishaupt, claiming because Weishaupt was part of his privy council, that made him immune from warrants. Shit really hit the fan when in October of 1786, thanks to the documents found on that horse courier, police raided the home of Franz Zwack, a member of Weishaupt's inner circle we've mentioned in previous videos. At his place, police found a stockpile of Illuminati documents which included descriptions of the order's symbols and Persian calendar they used, membership rosters, instructions for recruiters, ceremonies of initiation and imprints of the order's insignia, several hundred impressions of government seals for the purpose of counterfeiting, instructions for making poison called aqua tofana, recipes for poison gas and secret ink, an infernal machine for safeguarding papers that would apparently blow up if opened incorrectly, and instructions on how to build that machine. May I remind you the year is 1786 right now. Author Stauffer had the following comments based on these documents he sought out and seen as a part of his research. By the admissions of its leaders, the system of the Illuminati had the appearance of an organization devoted to the overthrow of religion and the state. A band of poisoners and forgers. An association of men with disgusting morals and depraved tastes.
Boom. Roasted.
By 1787, the legitimate intentions of the Illuminati began to be perceived by the public. As mentioned, the seized documents included plans for a global revolution, and it was clear that this was to be accomplished by covert groups using secrecy and deceit. It was clear that this was to be the work of only the most illuminated, which meant educated and well-placed individuals of the time. Due to this, the Bavarian police had to operate slowly, carefully, and tediously in their investigation of the Bavarian Illuminati. As a result, the police examination of the Bavarian Illuminati was starting to uncover some vulgar information. Accusations ranged from simple insurrection to Satan worship and even human sacrifice. The death blow to the Illuminati came when further raids uncovered the order's intentions of opening its doors to women, which was considered an absurd proposition in the 18th century. On August 16, 1787, Duke Karl Theodore issued a third and final edict pertaining to the Illuminati. Anyone recruiting for the Illuminati would be given the death penalty was part of said edict. We are told that this destroyed the Illuminati as an organization. However, this definitely didn't silence them. Teachings and membership lived on. Weishaupt and his critics exchanged jab after jab, claims and counterclaims via pamphlets and letters. Certain Illuminati members not fazed by the laws created against the order continued to hide themselves within the ranks of Freemasonry. Having successfully merged with Continental Freemasonry earlier in that decade, they simply went further underground. Their goals were advanced right on through the secret round tables of Cecil Rhodes in the 20th century, backed by the powerhouse Frankfurt Lodge, which was under control of the Hessian royalty, the Rothschilds, and their associates. Some former members turned against the order. Leopold Alois Hoffmann, a Mason that joined the Illuminati, was influenced by Rosicrucian information opposing the order. Rosicrucians went as far as creating a mini network of spies within the order. By 1790, those that didn't embed themselves in Freemasonry simply fled to other countries while retaining their loyalty to the order's philosophy and ideals. Illuminati orders sprang up in France, Italy, England, and even America. In 1789, John Robison, fucked up weird last name guy is back again, warned all Masonic leaders in America that the Illuminati had infiltrated into their lodges. And on July 19, 1789, David Papin, president of Harvard University, issued the same warning to the graduating class and informed them of the influence of Illuminism was having on American politics and religion. To top this off, John Quincy Adams, who had organized the New England Masonic Lodges, and also the 6th President of the United States, issued his warnings in the form of 3 letters he wrote to top Mason Colonel William L. Stone. In the letters, Adams exposed how Jefferson, that's right, Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President of the United States, was using Masonic lodges for subversive Illuministic purposes. Those 3 letters at this time can be found in the Wittenberg Square Library in Philadelphia. So Jefferson, founder of the Democratic Party, was a member of the Illuminati. As we've learned, these people love to infiltrate and subvert, so the infiltration of the Republican Party began. To me, it sounds like the birthing moment of the uniparty concept well known to researchers today. While in exile, and to close out his life, Weishaupt lived in Gotha, Germany, where he taught philosophy at the University of Göttingen. In November 18, 1830, Weishaupt died. He was survived by his 2nd wife and 5 children. Prior to his death, there are reports that Weishaupt prepared a revised version of the Illuminati, which under various aliases was to organize, finance, direct, and control all international organizations and groups by working their agents into executive positions at the top. Some reports also claim he made amends with the Catholic Church, but if you've been paying attention in the series, that meant Sabbatean-Frankists style, where he was just pretending to be something he isn't. I would just like to mention that loads of information about the French, American, and Soviet or Russian revolutions being influenced by the Illuminati does exist. Later on in our journey, we will return to examine those events, but right now it's time to introduce and delve into a new group of people to the channel. The year is 1832. Not even a full 2 years has passed since the passing of Weishaupt. A man by the name of William Huntington Russell is returning to Yale from Germany, where he studied for around a year. William Russell's head was filled with the philosophy of reason as taught by George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel at the University of Berlin. In Hegel's worldview, the state is absolute reason and individuals must give their total obedience to it. The state has supreme rights over individuals, and individuals must recognize that their supreme duty is to the state.
Gay!
Those close to Russell claimed that upon his return, he had intentions of starting an American chapter of a German secret society he found deeply interesting during his time in Germany. That being said, still in the year 1832 at Yale University, William Huntington Russell partnered up with his buddy Alfonso Taft. Together they founded what we know today as Skull and Bones.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction.
Thank you for watching. Coming up next on our perception correction journey will be an introduction to the Skull and Bones, aka Brotherhood of Death, aka The Order. There's another outlet other than this channel you can find me at now. The Broadcast is a podcast hosted by three badass down-to-earth broads that are keeping it real. They're also sifting through information about what's really going on in this world. So we've joined forces, you can say, to support each other and hopefully reach a wider audience. Link to them will be in the description. Go listen to them unless you hate cute puppies. As for perception correction, make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe. See you guys soon. But for now, like a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out. Hit the outro.
Motherfucker, I'm ill.
Skull and Bones. Who are they? Are they real? Who's a member? What do they want? Like with the Illuminati, let's try to find out. Skull and Bones, aka Brotherhood of Death, aka 322, aka The Order, has a headquarters named The Tomb that can be found at 64 High Street, New Haven, Connecticut, on the campus of Yale University. Skull and Bones was founded into existence in 1832, shortly after William Huntington Russell returned from studying in Germany. He tapped his buddy Alfonso Taft on the shoulder and Skull and Bones was born. The official, or mainstream story, as to the reason for Skull and Bones' creation is that, in 1832, certain members of Yale's seniors class did so to show resistance to the school's debating societies, such as Linonia and the Calliopean Society. However, researchers and authors contend that the true purpose of the order, based on their activities, is focused on changing our society and planet to bring about a new world order.
New world order. New world order. New world order. New world order. New world order. New world order.
A new world order.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
I don't know about you guys, but registering your club as a business to show resistance is a little excessive, but that's what Skull and Bones did. Russell Trust Association is the business name of Skull and Bones Society. It was incorporated in 1856 by William Huntington Russell as president and Daniel Coit Gilman as treasurer. The association holds the society's assets, including its endowment and property, and oversees property upkeep. Anyways, probably nothing to gawk at. Moving along, more on this company later. I've come across two possibilities pertaining to William Huntington Russell and his time in Germany. During his time there, he apparently became fond of an existing secret society and was either given permission or tasked with creating a chapter back at home in the United States. Therefore, a possible explanation of 322 in the logo would be the year it was founded, 1832, plus it being the second chapter of its kind. Other possible explanations of the 322 significance in the order's logo include the Bible verse Genesis 3:22, which reads,
"And the Lord God said, The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take from the tree of life and eat and live forever."
Some consider the 322 number as possibly being a shout out to ancient figures such as Aristotle and Demosthenes, who both died in 322 BC. Anyways, moving along. Before I tell you about how one founding member of Skull and Bones was tied to the British-influenced Opium Wars in China, and how the other founding member served as Secretary of War and Attorney General in the United States, and then gave birth to a son who became the only person still until this day to serve as President and Chief Justice of the United States, we need a quick cruise through information that explains how this order works.
And now, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Suze.
I'm Ash.
And I'm Tammy. And together, we're The Broadcast.
If you like podcasts and chicks without dicks that chat about government corruption,
the dark sides of Hollywood,
fighting against the woke mob and commies,
and every conspiracy theory we can cook up, you won't be disappointed.
New episodes drop every Sunday night at 7 p.m.
Available on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, back to the video.
Yale has influenced the CIA more than any other university, giving the CIA the atmosphere of a class reunion. Yale history professor Gaddis Smith. It's convenient that slang at Yale University for someone that has membership in a secret society is spook. What a coincidence that within the CIA an undercover operative is called a spook. Anyways, where were we? Each year, only 15 Yale juniors are selected to participate in the Skull and Bones during their senior year. That's right, so members are chosen in their junior year, but only spend their senior year on campus with the order. So, 15 and 15 men are chosen at a time. At any time, around 500 to 600 are alive and active. Roughly about 25% of these take on an active role in furthering the objectives of the order. The rest either lose interest or change their minds. Just think of a baseball or football player getting drafted. Most play their careers and then you never hear from them again. The active Skull and Bones men are the equivalent of the athletes that go on to become announcers, scouts, coaches, reporters, etc. Except they're not trying to take over the world. Also, don't forget that all these secret society organizations have pyramidal structures and not everyone gets shown what's going on at the apex. The day of selection of membership for Skull and Bones is called Tap Day. Here's a quick explanation of what Tap Day is according to YaleDailyNews.com. The first Tap Day was on May 23, 1879. Before that date, juniors invited to join Yale secret societies were visited in their dorm rooms and presented with the infamous accept or reject by members of the senior class. According to Go to Your Room, a guide to Yale's secret societies written by Yale professor Loomis Havmeyer in 1960, the first Tap Day took place on what is now Old Campus by Durfee and Farnham Halls, where members of the university community gathered to watch expectant juniors wait for the potential taps. Senior society members approached those who hoped to be tapped at around 5 p.m. and hit them on the back, bellowing, "Go to your room!" At which point the juniors ran back to their rooms to confirm or reject the formal offers. Yale professors and students alike felt that such a spectacle added insult to injury for those who were not tapped. Havmeyer writes in his book, "You're a pussy." If you weren't tapped for Skull and Bones, you still could be tapped for one of the other big three secret societies at Yale, such as Scroll and Key and Wolf's Head. Present day in 2024, this Tap Day has apparently evolved into having an online component, among others. But that's all the time we're going to spend on this. Moving along.
What happened to Skull and Bones, the secret society?
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
Newcomer members are called Knights, after the style of earlier secret societies such as Knights Templar, Knights of Malta, Knights of St. John. Once a full member, the person is known as a patriarch. Outsiders are derogatorily called Gentiles or Vandals. Alright, so who gets to be chosen to be a member of Skull and Bones? Author Anthony Sutton, whose work is considered first-rate when it comes to Skull and Bones, points out that active membership in Skull and Bones mostly falls under two types of men. Type 1, WASPs, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. For the most part, they're descendants of English Puritan families. Their ancestors arrived in North America in the 1600s. The surname parts of this category include Whitney, Lord, Phelps, Wadsworth, Allen, Bundy, not that Bundy, this Bundy, Adams, and so on. Type 2 is a result of intermarriage or inviting in sons of moguls from the last 200 years. Such mogul last names include Rockefeller, Harriman, Payne, Davisons, Bush, and more. And now it's time for a quick out-of-nowhere segue that I just made up into a mini segment that I'm calling Ain't That Some Shit? It involves fucked up last name guy from the Illuminati series on the channel whose last name isn't even that hard to say, I just for some reason could never get it right. Secrecy was the key to Illuminati control. A man by the name of John Robson, I don't know, look how it's spelled right here. I want to pronounce it Robinson, but it's not, it's Robson. He was an Edinburgh University professor. In 1789, John Robison, yep, fucked up weird last name guy is back again, warned all Masonic leaders. Okay, so on top of the numerous books and interviews that are part of the research for videos like this particular topic, the Skull and Bones topic, also involves a famous pamphlet distributed by the only group on record that broke into the headquarters of Skull and Bones. On September 29th, 1876, a group calling itself the Order of File and Claw broke into the Skull and Bones' Holy of Holies, into the tomb. Their report mentions how above the arches to room 322 in the building, a painted slogan can be found that's written in German. The English translation of this slogan is, "Who was the fool? Who the wise man, beggar or king? Whether poor or rich, all's the same in death." So remember Job Robiuson, the fucked up last name guy, the Freemason and Bavarian Illuminati defector turned whistleblower? In his book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, he prints excerpts from Illuminati ritual manuals confiscated by Bavarian police in 1785 during raids on high-ranking members. In those manuals, the identical slogan just mentioned can be found.
Ain't that some shit?
Aight. Here's a good spot to call it a day. Thanks for watching. The background to Skull and Bones is a story of opium and empire and a bitter struggle for political control over the new US Republic. Authors Griffin Tarpley and Anton Chaikin. As mentioned in part 1 of this series, Skull and Bones was founded in 1832 by General William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft. So let's get some background on these two fuckers. We're gonna skip learning about their childhood and upbringing and let's get right into their adult lives. Alphonso Taft was Secretary of War and Attorney General during and under President Ulysses Grant. He was also a U.S. Minister to Austria, Hungary, and Russia under President Chester A. Arthur. Alphonso Taft is father to William Howard Taft. Some of William's credentials are as follows: 6th Solicitor General of the United States, Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit, 42nd United States Secretary of War, 10th Chief Justice of the United States, and of course, 27th President of the United States.
What the fuck?
Before all of this, in 1878, William Howard Taft was tapped to be in Skull and Bones. And now on to the other co-founder, William Huntington Russell, who from 1846 to 1847 served as a Whig in the Connecticut State Legislature representing New Haven. Upon the repeal of the Missouri Compromise in 1854, he became active as one of the leaders of the movement, which resulted in the organization of the Republican Party. Russell's political resume is nowhere near as impressive as the Tafts we just briefly examined.
Stop it! Cut it out!
But let's see what happens when we take a look at the Russell family and their business endeavors. William Huntington Russell is a descendant of Noadiah Russell, who along with James Pierpont founded Yale. James Pierpont's daughter married William Huntington Russell. Pause. Okay, I gotta make a correction. This is future self talking to me from the past. What I just said was that James Pierpont's daughter married William Huntington Russell. She did not marry the guy that started Skull and Bones. Mary Pierpont Russell married William H. Russell, but not William Huntington Russell, because we're still about 100 years before we get to William Huntington Russell and the start of Skull and Bones. James Pierpont's granddaughter went on to marry the father of the J.P. Morgan. The Russell family was at the center of Russell & Company, a firm controlled by some of Boston's finest blue blood families that were enriched by the slave trade and then by opium smuggling in the early 19th century. A notable Russell & Company partner early on pertaining to its opium operations in China was a man by the name of Warren Delano Jr., who was grandfather to, wait for it, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. William Russell's cousin Samuel Russell was a key player in the British-influenced opium wars in China. The opium wars of the 19th century is another rabbit hole in itself. That involves Britain putting pressure on India by producing cotton cloth finished goods and making them more affordable for the population of India than the goods produced in India. As a result, India dropped the price of their opium so they could sell more of it to bolster their economy, mainly to the blue blood families of Britain and the USA. Side note, here's a fucked up fact. During these opium wars, Edward Henry Harriman, a railroad executive and financier, imported over 100,000 Chinese slave laborers known as coolies to replace the black slaves. Why, you ask? Because Chinese slave laborers were far better opium addicts. So this move by Harriman provided cheap labor for his railroads, along with a significant increase in customers for opium in the United States. Edward was father to William Averill Harriman, Skull and Bones 1913, and Edward Roland Harriman, Skull and Bones 1917. Remember this family, they are important, especially Averill, who we will examine in more detail later. Now that you've gotten a better glimpse into the crooked and powerful characters that founded Skull and Bones, we've skipped over talking about the Order's rituals and their inner workings, so let's do that next. I do seem to have come across definite, if skeletal, links between the origins of Bones rituals and those of the notorious Bavarian Illuminists. Ron Rosenbaum, journalist, Yale graduate, Skull and Bones researcher. Rosenbaum has written about how another fraternity gave him a report pertaining to Bones' initiation rituals, one of which goes like this. The Bones initiate is placed into a casket in a room which is said to be a central part of their building named The Tomb. This new man is chanted over and is said to be reborn when exiting the coffin and given robes covered with symbols.
Guess this one didn't make it through the reborn part.
He added that while in the coffin, a conversation takes place that is devoted exclusively to sexual histories. They don't leave out anything these days. The sexual stuff is totally explicit and there's less need for fabricating exploits to fill up the allotted time. Most sessions start off with talk of prep school masturbation and don't stop until the intimate details of Saturday's night's delights have come to light. Other similarities between Skull and Bones and the Bavarian Illuminati include the way codenames were based on historical and mythical figures. George H.W. Bush was known as Magog, Averell Harriman was Thor, Charles Seymour was Machiavelli, John Kerry was Gorlock. Just like the personal diary kept by Bavarian Illuminati members, during the 1 to 3 year probation period, the novice was asked to keep a log of the following things inside the notebook he was given. The weaknesses, prejudices, actions, financial status, and interests of everyone he met, including his own family, friends, and even strangers. He was told to write down his thoughts about any local or national news event, activity, or story. He was also asked to record his thoughts about his recruiter, aka Brother Insinuator. The Brother Insinuator was a huge factor in the initiate moving up throughout the ranks. Skull and Bonesmen kept one themselves called Life Histories, in which they were supposed to document their day-to-day experiences, deepest thoughts, and feelings. These life history diaries were open access for Bones superiors. Another process of initiation was having initiate Bonesmen stand in front of the membership and confess his innermost secrets, including his sexual history. This is done in front of a painting of a woman entitled Connubial Bliss. This confession of secrets is recorded by the individual conducting the ceremony, given the name Uncle Toby. And now a 2-minute clip from that time ABC News, that's right, ABC News, had a segment on Skull and Bones and aired rare footage of a Bones ceremony that was conducted in the sealed-off courtyard around back of their headquarters, aka The Tomb. Enjoy.
He's come pretty close. She was part of a team that successfully recorded part of the initiation ceremony that takes place in the tomb's courtyard.
Okay, you have the doorway here.
Yeah.
Okay, then to the right you have a hedge, and then you have an evergreen tree. If you follow that line straight back, courtyard's in there.
Ah, okay.
So
that's where they have the ceremonies in
the outdoor part of it. Part of it was indoors, so we only got to see the outdoor part.
Right.
We only got to and to listen to the outdoor part. God only knows what went on indoors.
And what did you hear? What was it you know? You managed to get this unique
it was disgusting. It was gross. I mean, they were pretending to murder people. And
what was the tone of it, though? Was it jokey, or was it quite...
No, it wasn't jokey at all. It was sick. It's about the only thing to describe it. It was sick.
What you're hearing is the first recording ever made of the Skull and Bones initiation ceremony. It has never been broadcast before. 15 new members of the club are being introduced into the macabre rituals of Skull and Bones by the senior students who are about to graduate. The club has what some might see as a strange fascination with death, skulls and bones. There's the chants too, difficult to hear first of all, but including the devil equals death, and death equals death.
This is an elaborate, occult, ritualistic entry into this group that they are...
That's fucking weird, huh? Holy shit. What the hell was that all about?
It is said that from time to time, Skull and Bones will take on challenges or special duties. Prescott Bush apparently took on one of these jobs. What was this task? Grave robbing, of course. In 1918, Apache warrior Geronimo's burial plot in Oklahoma was the chosen mark. The warrior's skull and 2 bones were apparently dug up by Prescott Bush and a few bonesmen, and were displayed back at the tomb. On February 17, 2009, Skull and Bones was sued in federal court demanding that the order give back his bones so he may rest in peace. I believe strongly from my heart that his spirit was never released. Geronimo's grandson, Harlan Geronimo. By establishing reading societies and subscription libraries and taking these under our direction and supplying them through our labors, we may turn the public mind which way we will. Adam Weishaupt, Bavarian Illuminati founder. This quote from the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati was not ignored by Skull and Bones. The order had the forethought of controlling perception in the future by creating both the American Historical Association and the American Economic Association. Aight. Booyakasha! Let's call it a day here. Make sure you come back for the third and final installment of this series where the focus will strictly be the evil scandals Skull and Bones members were involved in. Funding Nazis. We will examine how Skull and Bones members were placed in various sectors of society to do the bidding of the order, such as education, money, law, politics, economy.
Alright, I get it!
And of course, our journey after Skull and Bones must continue to a different organization. In this video, I will show that Skull and Bones members took control of society by successfully infiltrating the fields of education, money, law, politics, economy, psychology, philanthropy, medicine, religion, and media. Adam Weishaupt would have been proud. Welcome to part 3 in our Skull and Bones trilogy. Go check out parts 1 and 2 if you haven't, or the other videos on the channel about the Bavarian Illuminati and Sabbatean-Frankists that are connected to the video you are watching now. In this video, we will be strictly speaking about the scandals and shady dealings of numerous Skull and Bones members, along with examining how numerous Bonesmen obtained positions in the society that, while working in unison, allowed them to control the perception of the masses while enriching themselves monetarily and through a concentration of power. Make sure to like, subscribe, and to follow me and the 3 badass broads that I hang out with on the Broadcast podcast. If you don't, you're pretty much telling me you hate cute puppies and worship Satan. Hit the intro.
I got flavor.
Alright, let's not waste any time and get into the first scandal, which is surrounding the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or BCCI. With losses occurring in the $15 to $20 billion range, accusations of fraud and laundering drug money, mainly in Florida, started to make headlines in the 1980s pertaining to BCCI. Many prominent names were being connected to the scandal, including President George H.W. Bush. The Bush administration tried to impede any serious investigation. However, a formal investigation of BCCI was launched by Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Terrorism, Narcotics, and International Operations, headed by Massachusetts Senator John Kerry. Kerry was chairman of the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, which received significant donations from, can you guess where? Bank of Credit and Commerce International. You are correct.
Sick, twisted fuck.
The Kerry-led investigation ended up being a farce. A special counsel to Kerry's subcommittee, Jack Blum, was quoted saying the following.
One of our witnesses, Mr. Blum, who will...
I proposed a serious investigation of BCCI and was brushed aside. A high-level cover-up of everything concerning BCCI was set into place after Customs stumbled across their money laundering operation in Miami and its stolen place. Then, in 2004, the presidential election pitted Democrat nominee John Kerry versus George H.W.'s son, aka Boy Bush, as the incumbent Republican nominee. Yep, 2004 was a bones versus bones presidential race. There was talk of Kerry challenging the results due to his criticism of GOP Secretary of State Ken Blackwell.
His role in the Ohio election, which saw George W. Bush narrowly defeat John Kerry, remains controversial to this day. Blackwell was the target of over a dozen lawsuits over his handling of the 2004 election.
For his dual role in 2004 as President Bush's honorary Ohio campaign co-chairman and the state's top election official. He used the power of his state office to try to intimidate Ohioans and suppress the Democratic vote, Kerry stated in an email. But if the puppet masters have banked on another Boy Bush presidency, which really means another this guy presidency, then it's a good thing his opponent is a fellow bonesman that conceded the election in the morning instead of challenging the results in Ohio. Funny how that works.
I would not give up this fight if there was a chance that we would prevail. But it is now clear that even when all the provisional ballots are counted, which they will be, there won't be enough outstanding votes for us to be able to win Ohio. And therefore, we cannot win this election.
A lazy fuck.
By establishing reading societies and subscription libraries, and taking these under our direction and supplying them through our labors, we may turn the public mind which way we will. Adam Weishaupt. Go watch our video series on the Bavarian Illuminati that led us to the Skull and Bones on this channel. The investigation revealed that many members of the Illuminati were part of the military, state officials, professors, and teachers. This should come as no surprise to viewers of this channel, seeing as we've already mentioned this. Illuminati priests were given the choice of directing one of the following sciences: physics, medicine, mathematics, natural history, politics, the arts, or occult sciences. Keeping that quote I just mentioned by the Bavarian Illuminati founder Adam Weishaupt, let's take a look at how Skull and Bones men did executing Weishaupt's concept after leaving Yale. Bonesmen and their industries. Government and intelligence. Prescott Bush, Skull and Bones, class of 1917. More on him funding Nazis later.
What the hell did you just say?
George H.W. Bush, Skull and Bones, class of 1948. CIA director and former president. George W. Bush, Skull and Bones, class of 1968. 43rd President of the United States, Governor of Texas. McGeorge Bundy, Skull and Bones, class of 1940. He was the 5th National Security Advisor under JFK and Lyndon B. Johnson. William Bundy, Skull and Bones, 1939. Longtime CIA analyst, 9th Assistant Secretary of State for East Indian and Pacific Affairs. Which brings us to the father of these Bundy brothers, Harvey Hollister Bundy, Skull and Bones, 1909. Appointed by Henry L. Stimson as Special Assistant to the Secretary of War during World War II, Boston attorney at Putnam Bell. Henry Stimson, Skull and Bones, 1888.
Fucking nerd.
He served as Secretary of War under President William Howard Taft, which is the son of the founder of Skull and Bones, Secretary of State under President Herbert Hoover, and again Secretary of War under President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Harry S. Truman, overseeing American military efforts during World War II.
In a journal entry by Roosevelt's Secretary of War Henry Stimson, dated November 25, 1941, he documented a conversation he had with Roosevelt. The question was, how should we maneuver them into firing the first shot? It was desirable to make sure the Japanese be the ones to do this, so that there should remain no doubt as to who were the aggressors.
Next up, F. Truby Davison, Skull and Bones, 1918. Director of Personnel for the CIA, Assistant United States Secretary of War, in office July 1926 to March 1933. Next up, brother of F. Truby, Henry Pomeroy Davison Jr., Skull and Bones, 1920. We'll come back to him when we take a look at Skull and Bones and their influence on media. The father of the Davison brothers I just mentioned, Henry Pomeroy Davison Sr. Claims exist that he was also a Skull and Bones member, however, finding a definitive year of his membership is difficult. Henry Sr. is known for being a banker and philanthropist. In 1909, he became a senior partner at J.P. Morgan & Company, and in 1910, he was a participant in the secretive meeting on Jekyll Island, Georgia, that laid the foundation for the creation of the Federal Reserve System in 1913. Now that we have mentioned J.P. Morgan, stay tuned for additional money-printing, banking families to be painted into this picture. And now, a word from the best sponsor one can ever have.
Hi, I'm Suze.
I'm Ash.
And I'm Tammy, and together we're The Broadcast.
If you like podcasts and chicks without dicks that chat about government corruption,
the dark sides of Hollywood,
fighting against the woke mob and commies,
and every conspiracy theory we can cook up, you won't be disappointed.
New episodes drop every Sunday night at 7 p.m.
Available on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, back to the video.
And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Where were we?
Bitches ain't shit.
William Francis Buckley Jr., Skull and Bones, 1944. Beirut CIA station chief from 1984 until his kidnapping and death in 1985. Buckley was also a member of the Knights of Malta. William Bissell, Skull and Bones, 1925, whose brother, Richard Bissell, became deputy director of plans for the CIA. Here's an example of his work. In March 1960, President Eisenhower approved a CIA plan to overthrow Castro. This strategy was organized by Richard Bissell. Sidney Gottlieb of the CIA Technical Services was tasked to come up with proposals that would undermine Castro's popularity with the Cuban people. Gottlieb also ran MK project from 1953 to 1964. These schemes were rejected, and instead Bissell decided to arrange Castro's assassination. In September 1960, Bissell and Allen W. Dulles, the director of the CIA, started talks with two main figures of the mafia, John Roselli and Sam Giancana. Later, other crime bosses such as Carlos Marcello, Santo Trafficante Jr., and Meyer Lansky became involved in the first plot against Castro. This strategy was managed by Sheffield Edwards. Robert Mahu, a veteran of CIA counter-espionage activities, was instructed to offer the mafia $150,000 to kill Fidel Castro. The advantage of employing the mafia for this work is that it provided the CIA with a credible cover story. The mafia were known to be angry with Castro for closing down their profitable brothels and casinos in Cuba. If the assassins were killed or captured, the media would accept that the mafia were working alone. The mafia played along in order to get protection from the FBI.
Sam Giancana was quick to claim that it was he who had elected Kennedy to the White House. While most dispute this, Giancana certainly expected payback.
Giancana can legitimately think that he had done his work and that he had tipped it and that he could expect some result.
Giancana expected the new Kennedy administration to get Bobby off his back. He told an associate,
"Bobby will just be another goddamn lawyer soon. They promised me they'll take care of him."
Next up, Robert Lovett, Skull and Bones, 1980. He was the 4th United States Secretary of Defense, 2nd United States Deputy Secretary of Defense, 15th United States Under Secretary of State. His father, Robert S. Lovett, was president and chairman of the board of the E.H. Harriman System of Railroads, Union Pacific Railroad, and a director of both the National City Bank of New York and Western Union. Lovett joined his father's banking firm in 1921, later moving to his wife's family's banking firm, Brown Brothers Harriman, where he became a partner in 1926. Next up, John Kerry, Skull and Bones, 1966. 68th United States Secretary of State, 1st United States Special President Envoy for Climate.
Mr. Secretary, in exchange with Mr. Mills, you just testified under oath that you never owned a private jet. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record article here from February 15th of 2023 that the John Kerry family private jet was sold shortly after accusations of climate hypocrisy. Mr. Secretary, do you stand by that testimony that you've never owned or
I personally,
your family?
I
your family?
Personally, yes. My wife owned a plane and sold the plane.
You flew on that plane?
Not in a number of years, but I have flown on it, sure.
And this article is not then inaccurate, that your family owned a plane, you flew on a plane.
My
Mr.
wife
Mr. Secretary,
my wife owned a plane.
Here's the issue.
Yeah.
This isn't some kind of partisan gotcha. When we are asking Americans to make serious sacrifices as we transition for the common good, and your family and or yourself are flying around on private jets, that smacks of hypocrisy. It actually hurts your cause, Mr. Secretary, but I'll move on. I just want to know from a record standpoint.
Afford me the right, at least, to set the record straight here. I do not fly on a private jet. I do not fly. I fly commercially.
Have you flown on a private jet since you've taken this position?
Just let me just finish. I have flown 5 times in the last 2.5 years on Millair, which you also fly on.
Sure.
Or some of you who travel fly on, 5 times. Otherwise, all of my trips are commercial airlines.
Have you flown on a private jet in a personal or official capacity since you've taken this position?
Possibly once.
And of course, 2004 Democrat presidential nominee where he faced off against Republican Boy Bush.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. Look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
All right, let's go.
John M. Walker Jr., Skull and Bones, 1962. Senior Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, assumed office September 30th, 2006. Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, appointed by George H.W. Bush. Judge of the United States Court for the Southern District of New York, appointed by Ronald Reagan. In 1981, Walker became Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, responsible for policy and law enforcement, regulatory and trade matters, and with oversight of the Customs Service, Secret Service, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the Office of Foreign Assets Control. As Assistant Secretary, he helped establish the Iran-United States Claims Tribunal and served as a U.S. representative to Interpol. His father was John M. Walker Sr., Skull and Bones, 1931, and that now brings us to the media education and business category of bonesmen. Hopefully you, the viewer, has realized that these bonesmen were the ones involved in the establishing of the military-industrial complex, which I consider the CIA and other intelligence agencies a part of.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The next few individuals that we're going to examine provide Skull and Bones the ability to control the media and show the power of the money-printing banking families that were on their side. John M. Walker Sr., Skull and Bones, 1931, was an American physician and investment banker. Walker's older sister, Dorothy, married President Bush's father, Senator Prescott Bush. Henry Luce or Luce was born in China and arrived in the US at the age of 15, was co-founder of Time Inc., which is the publisher of Time, Life, Fortune, and Sports Illustrated magazines. It is reported that Henry and his magazine empire was a devoted participant of Operation Mockingbird.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Gotcha, bitch!
Don't forget, the already mentioned bonesman, Henry Pomeroy Davison Jr., Skull and Bones, 1920, worked as a director of Time magazine. William F. Buckley Jr., Skull and Bones, 1950, was founder of the National Review magazine and a prominent conservative commentator and author. He worked for 2 years in the CIA. From 1966 to 1999, Buckley hosted 1,429 episodes of the public affairs television show Firing Line. Just when you thought the power capabilities of the Skull and Bones was impressive, here comes the section of my script that exhibits the order's ties to the banking families who many think rule the world today. Rothschild, Rockefeller, and Morgan connections. Starting with J. Richardson Dilworth, Skull and Bones, 1938, he was a longtime manager of the Rockefeller fortune. Next up, Harold Stanley, Skull and Bones, 1908, joined Morgan's Guaranty Trust banking firm in 1915 and eventually became a partner in the merged Morgan Stanley & Company. W. Averill Harriman, Skull and Bones, 1913, was a board member of Guaranty Trust. More on him later. H.P. Whitney, Skull and Bones, 1894, and his father, W.C. Whitney, Skull and Bones, 1863, were both directors of Morgan's Guaranty Trust. Amory Howe Bradford, Skull and Bones, 1943, married Carol Warburg Rothschild in 1941 and soon became general manager of the New York Times. Breaking news, shout out to Fun Acceptable Views, aka Ash from the Broadcast Podcast, for finding me a picture of Amory Bradford Howe. Here it is. Thanks, girl. Go follow her and everybody else on the Broadcast Podcast. Now back to the video. The Warburgs control Deutsche Bank and BNP. Paul Wahlberg was a Federal Reserve founder as well. We shall have world government whether or not we like it. The only question is whether world government will be achieved by conquest or consent. Paul Wahlberg.
Shut up, bitch!
Nothing to see there. Moving along. Percy A. Rockefeller, Skull and Bones, 1900. He was a businessman and philanthropist. A Rockefeller series will be made on this channel at some point, so we'll circle back to that family. Here's a quick story in relation to the most recently mentioned characters.
If your dog is lost, you don't look for an hour and then call it quits. You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog.
Jacob Schiff, who was a financier of the Bolshevik Revolution, the top guy at Cohn, Loeb & Co., and also the Schiffs, you might not know, shared a house with the Rothschilds in Frankfurt, Germany during the later half of the 18th century, which means they also must have met this guy. So anyways, Jacob Schiff financed the purchase of the Union Pacific Railroad for railroad tycoon Edward H. Harriman. Edward Harriman's control over transport costs aided John D. Rockefeller in monopolizing the petroleum industry in the late 1800s. Rockefeller had an exclusive deal with Harriman to transport his petroleum that would drive Rockefeller's competitors out of business and force them to sell their business to Rockefeller. Edward Harriman is the father of the previously mentioned William Averell Harriman, Skull and Bones, 1913. During the 1930s, W. Averell Harriman's banking firm named W.A. Harriman & Company merged with the private international banking firm of Brown Brothers, creating Brown Brothers Harriman & Company. A longtime partner of Brown Brothers Harriman & Company was Prescott Bush. The Harrimans were considered mentors to the Bush family. Averell Harriman also held ownership in UBC. UBC stands for United Banking Corporation, and here's an explanation of Prescott Bush, UBC, and quite the scandal.
One other treasonous organization worth mentioning is the Union Banking Corporation of New York City. Not only did it finance numerous aspects of Hitler's rise to power, along with actual materials during the war, it was also a Nazi money laundering bank, which was eventually exposed for having millions of dollars of Nazi money in its vaults. The Union Banking Corporation of New York was eventually seized for violations of the Trading with the Enemy Act. Guess who the director and vice president of the Union Bank was? Prescott Bush, our current president's grandfather, and of course our former president's father. Keep that in mind when considering the moral and political dispositions of the Bush family.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here.
Booyakasha!
We didn't even get a chance to examine in detail Skull and Bones' influence on education, medicine, and other facets of our life, but the connections are there. Yale taking in Project Paperclip participants was also overlooked, but I am happy we did get a chance to connect Sabbatean-Frankists to the Bavarian Illuminati to the Skull and Bones and their influence on the shady CIA, military-industrial complex, and how this all connects to the Rothschilds, Morgans, Rockefellers, and other notorious banking families. Throughout this series, numerous characters you met were also members of the organization that is up next to be featured on the channel. Not fully a secret society, I would call the Council on Foreign Relations a semi-secret organization with an even wider reach and more influence on society and events of planet's Earth than Skull and Bones. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. I'll do the same for the Broadcast podcast, where you can find me hanging out and chatting with 3 based badass broads. See you all next on part 1 of the Council on Foreign Relations. Until then, like a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out. Hit the outro.
Motherfucker, I'm ill.